In today's episode, we are going to speak with Kelsey Flannery, who's going to talk to us about some SEO tools and strategies that you can use to help your business get ranked in Google so you can get more leads, more sales, and build your business big and faster. So stay tuned.
If you want to build a legitimate, profitable online business without shiny objects, without the hypey gimmicks, and without the stress and overwhelm, if you want to make more money without having to be present online all day, every day, pumping out content that nobody sees and hustling DMs to generate leads and sales, then this is the place for you. Welcome to the Digital Trailblazer Podcast, your online business university, where you'll learn how ordinary people start from ground zero with no influence, no email list or audience to sell to, and no business or marketing experience, and go from working 9-to-5 jobs to building successful 6- and 7-figure online businesses and all the steps in between. Learn the strategies that worked and what didn't. Learn the mistakes that they made and how to avoid them, and then learn their plans for scaling their businesses and taking things to the next level. All so that you can build your business faster and easier and make more money without sacrificing the things that are important to you in your life. I'm your host, 𝐬𝐻𝐫𝐞𝐿, and with me is my husband, Todd. Now, let's get to it with today's guest.
Kelsey, welcome to the Digital Trailblazer Podcast. We're so glad to have you here. Give our audience just a quick rundown of who you are, what you do, and how you help people.
Yeah, like you said, my name is Kelsey Flannery. My business is KaeRae Marketing, and I help business owners get the most from Google by trying to get them to the top using SEO tools or different tools that Google offer for free, as well as Google Ads. I've been Google certified for 10 years, so I've seen a lot of the changes that Google has done and the new changes coming with everything with AI. So there's always evolving happening with Google, so it's important to stay on top of it. And so I created resources to help people learn more about Google.
The search traffic, I think, is some of the most valuable traffic you can get. And so, that's one of the things that we focus a lot of our attention on. Not that we're always ranking on page one, but, we're ranking high enough where we get the traffic that we want. But the thing is, it takes time to get there. For our audience, can you kind of explain some of the very basic things if you're looking to get ranked in Google and you really haven't done anything in terms of keyword research or SEO strategies or anything like that? What are some of the very beginner basic things that you can do to start getting your website ranked so you can start ranking higher in Google?
Well, number one is knowing your keywords. Being able to know what terms you want your website to rank for will help you then edit the tags or even the content on your website for those words. And sometimes I try to remind people we often create our websites for ourselves, not for our audience. And so we want to be thinking about how they think of our business or even the words that they would describe, because sometimes as industry professionals, we think at speaking at a high level, that's going to help our audience, when really speaking at their level is what's going to help build the connection and allow them to then choose you to go to your website and then so far down your funnel. So really knowing your keywords is going to be step number one. And I think knowing from your point of view, what's an industry keyword? What's that top level professional term that everyone knows that you are competing with? And then what does your audience say? And then lastly, what are their questions? How many times do you go to Google and search a question? That's a rich keyword. They may be considered long tail, meaning that they're more than 2 or 3 words. But those questions are very valuable to teach your audience that you're an expert in your industry.
Now, for the audience members who are completely brand new to SEO, can you explain what a keyword is?
Yeah, so a keyword is anything searched into Google search to try and find a resource, a service, or even just some answer to help them understand. And so that could be just, hey, you're a home cleaner, a variant of that, house cleaner. Many people search in different ways. So you want to come up with all of the different ways someone would search. If that's shorthand, if that's misspellings, all of those keywords are going to be very important. And I often tell people just for a whole week, put a piece of paper on your desk, and every time your customer asks a question or says something, think about it as, is this a keyword? Would they search this into Google? And how can I put this into my website as a title tag, meta description, in the content, or even its own blog post to help those people searching?
So what are some things you can do to start figuring out what those keywords might be?
So you can always just listen. Listen to your customers, listen to, the people on your team, who you're talking to. You can also check out your competitors. What are they saying? What are they coming up for? We don't want to go down the rabbit hole of being obsessed with our competitors, but to learn what they're doing. Possibly if they've been in business longer than you, they can give you some ideas to get started. But you can also use Google tools. So the first one is going to Google search. And that drop down that Google suggests something based on what you've started to type. This is the first place that you can find keywords because Google's giving you suggested ideas based on what you started with. So go there, start building your keyword list, and really a keyword list that you don't need a minimum number. Get as many as possible because the more pages you create, the more keywords you will need.
Now, as far as keywords go, there is such a thing as keyword difficulty, right? Like if I was a health and fitness coach, like if I were to try to rank for the keyword weight loss, that would probably be very difficult, right?
Yes, it's going to be very competitive because you will have all of the different weight loss plans, dietitians, and then even getting into more high-end or larger companies that have those keywords related to products that they have within their store, like Target, Walmart, Amazon, could be using those keywords that you're competing with. So it may be very challenging, but it's not something that you don't want to include in your strategy. You still want to include those major keywords to help Google understand that that is still relevant for your business.
Okay. So you want to focus on some of those bigger subjects, but then you also mentioned long tail keywords, right? Using your strategy, we could go to Google, start typing in the word weight loss. And maybe I'll do this right now. If I go to Google and I type in the word weight loss, and then I'm not hitting enter, but I can see all of the suggestions below it. Those would be some other keywords that I could target, right? So what I'm seeing here is like weight loss injections, weight loss medication, weight loss calculator, weight loss pills, weight loss clinics near me. So those are all things that I could use as other keywords to create content around.
Exactly. And you could go down this rabbit hole for hours, continuing to add to it, change to it, and even completing the search. You'll also find that obviously, Google Gemini is going to give you a prompted, suggested answer. But if you keep scrolling, there will be questions others ask. And that will help you, like, what else are people asking related to this keyword I just searched? And that will expand into the audience that you want to target. Obviously, weight loss is a very broad, any human may be interested in that topic, but who do you serve? So knowing your audience, and then how do they search into Google and what they're actually looking for is kind of the whole realm of keywords.
Yeah. So if I do that and I go to people also ask, like the first thing that comes up is what is the 30-30 rule in weight loss? I mean, that's something you could create an article. That's a much easier thing to create an article around. That's a very specific question that you can come up with an answer for. Is 1,200 a day enough to lose weight? I assume that's calories. So yeah, so you got a bunch of good suggestions there. Now, one of the other things I know with keywords is that you want to look at keyword volume. Is that right? Like how many searches per month are actually being performed for that keyword?
Yeah. And when we talk about long tail keywords, those are going to have low search volumes. And the reason is the variety of different ways that someone might search that long tail is going to be infinite. So if we're talking about weight loss for women, it may not be considered too long tail, but we can also do women in New York City. Now, people may change the order of those words, and that changes the keywords. So that's where the long tail may not have as many search volume because it's in that order. So when we're talking one word or two word phrases, the search volume is going to be a lot bigger because it's more common for someone to search that in that exact way. And so obviously we want more search volume. That's going to give you more opportunities to get the clicks, but you want to be specific so that you aren't getting traffic that's vague and actually not looking for your services. So there's kind of a mix that you want to be paying attention to the search volume and is it going to generate what you are looking for?
Is there any purpose in creating content around keywords that have like a zero search volume?
I mean, if it hits the nail right on the head, if it has dual purpose, I always like to repurpose content. Is it going to be helpful for me to share this on social media or to my email newsletter? And then I can put it as a blog post because we can always do that and it will just help. If that keyword is searched, you may be ranking number one just by having that page. So it doesn't hurt if it really is exactly what your audience would look for. It just may have not been searched enough to get enough data for Google to have a number there.
So for example, like one of these keyword suggestions here, or people also ask, was, is 1,200 a day enough to lose weight? It's obvious that that was shorthand for, is 1,200 calories a day enough to lose weight? Would it matter if I'm using the exact phrase or not that Google is looking for? Or if I add the word calories, does that still kind of count?
So I would say that's actually evolved over the last year since AI has come in, that they're kind of using filler words as exchangeable. So if it's not there or if it is there, Google still knows what you're trying to say. And even with those misspellings, if you spell something wrong into Google, they still know what you mean. But if you can still use the full keyword, that gives Google more of a sense of what it is, and it's more readable. And so it really comes down to your audience. Are they paying attention to those details, or are they not? And some people, if they're talking to copywriters, then they certainly want to be paying attention to those filler words because they're reading each word. So again, it comes back to how much your audience wants from you. But answering that question, you're going to be able to get Google to pick it up anyways.
Now, the keyword research, I know there's a ton of tools out there to help you out with that. For example, if you want to know the keyword difficulty, if you want to know the search volume, if you want to know all these things about the keywords, what are some tools that people can use to start figuring that stuff out?
So the first one is always going to be 𝐼berSuggest by Neil Patel. That one's the most commonly known. It gives you a lot of data. The free version can give you a sense of, building your keyword list with some data. And then, of course, there's the paid version that can give you a lot more. I'm always a fan of trying to find free versions, and Google always has free versions of information to share about their own tools. So the next is Google Ads Keyword Planner. You don't need to have a Google Ads account. You may need to set it up and have a credit card in there, but you don't need to have any campaigns active to use the keyword planner. And I like to use this because it gives you the estimated cost per click. So if you are considering Google Ads or you want to know, is this keyword even worth it? That's just an extra metric to see how much is someone willing to pay for this keyword. And so it gives you the competition level, the search volume, and how much people are willing to bid on Google Ads. And so it also gives you ideas for more keywords. And so using Google to understand Google has always been my theory. But another tool that Google offers is Google Trends. And I like this when it comes down to two keywords like house cleaning versus home cleaning. Which one should I use? Obviously, I suggest using both because everyone's going to search their own flavor. But with Google Trends, you can actually compare them. Which one is searched more often so that you don't have to try and make that decision. Google is giving you the data to decide. And it makes it very clear and simple. So if you're not ready to go in and look at a bunch of numbers, this just gives you a line graph to be able to see very clearly, okay, it's house cleaning. Let's go with that.
Now, when people find their keywords and they start creating their content, where do they want to put those keywords when they're creating like an article on a website? Because I know you mentioned tags was one. Where are the other places that you want to put this?
All right, we could start from the top, and that goes title tag. And this is the link that shows on Google search. You want to include a keyword and your business name and your geographic area. And then the meta description is that paragraph under that link, still showing on Google search. A couple sentences. This is what this page is about. Always include your keyword in that as well. Now, once you get onto your page, your headline, you always want to have your keyword in the title of the page or of the blog. And then as you go through the content, so you have your written content about whatever you're talking about, you want to have about 1% be your keyword. So if you have 100 words, 1 time would be the density that's necessary. So really, if you have a long post or a short post, just trying to get it in there a few times, not too many times. As soon as you're going over 10, Google's going to really find that as spammy and it may not even be readable. And Google's goal is to give useful information. So making sure that that's still the focus of your content. And then lastly is your alt tags. So these are the images. Google doesn't see what the image is. They only see what it's named. And most of us have it screenshot or image 123. This is a place that you can insert the keyword plus your business name. And it will also show in Google search image category.
Okay. Now, with the articles that you're writing on your website, is there a specific length that you want it to be? Like, I've heard as short as like 300 to 500 words. I've seen other people suggest that your article should be 1,200 words or more. Is there a sweet spot for that, or does it matter, or what's the suggestion there?
I would say a mix. Honestly, the longer the blog post for me, I don't rate it all. I may be skimming to the part that is actually going to be helpful. So I enjoy shorter content so that I'm getting the answer to what I'm looking for. Most times I'm going to articles for a resource to find something to learn to then do for myself. But with long blog posts, you can also break it up. So if you have a long blog post and you're talking 1,200 words and you can break it up into 2 posts, taking topics and kind of stretching them allows you to create more content. So it really depends on how much you have to say about it, but a mix from 500 to 1,000 words is a great place.
Okay. You mentioned the alt tags and the images. Is that important enough where you would say you should always have at least one image in a blog post?
Yes.
Okay. Is there a limit to how many images you should have? Okay.
No, but you do want to rename all of them if you do have images there. Make sure each of them has an alt tag.
Now, in addition to the keyword and putting that into the title and the meta description and all the other places, what are some other things that will help your content to get ranked in Google?
Backlinking. So backlinking is a internal or external option. Internal means it goes to another page within your site, your services page that you're talking about, a book up call as your call to action, whatever it might be. It could even be to another blog post for them to learn more. The external is to link to other websites. So you can do this as a source or just a reference, or you can actually build a relationship with that other website so that you can have your link on their page. So we can always link to other websites all we want, but as soon as we get it back, Google now sees the credibility of the relationship between the two websites as a lot more credible than just a one-way where we're just trying to get some of their traffic.
Right. Nice. Okay. Now, with the internal links, obviously those are probably a lot easier to build. Does it matter where those links are going? So, for example, if I was doing an article on, let's say, a vegan diet, would it be more valuable to have an internal link going to, say, another article about a vegan diet on my website, or could it just go to a contact page and it's just as good?
You can have both. I often try, and if there are other resources along that same topic, definitely link to it so that you continue the user to go through. If you have reached the point where you have that call to action, you're looking for them to just contact you, having that as well. You can't have too many backlinks, but you do want to have each page have one out and one in. So if there are pages on your website that you don't have any traffic to, linking to it would help Google be able to build its trust with its page.
In addition to the backlinks, there's also other factors that Google takes into account to determine how high you rank. Is that right? So things like page speed, or what are those other things?
Yes. Well, one is page speed. No one likes to wait for a page loading. I know that I am so impatient when it comes to that. The goal is less than 3 seconds. So if you have a lot on your page, if you have videos on your website, those things may take time. So to consider compressing them so that the software or whatever platform can load quickly. There are some tools that Google offered that you can test how fast your desktop and mobile version are loading. The other thing is how mobile friendly is your site. Everyone's on their phone. A majority of website traffic is coming from mobile devices. And so making sure that it loads quickly and is formatted properly. There's a lot more responsive website design. But if it hasn't been remodeled or redone in a while, it may not work, or you'd have to zoom in a lot. And then the age of the site comes in a lot, in how old, how credible, has it been active? If you created a bunch of blog posts in 2020 and then stopped the following year and haven't done it since, Google may assume that you may not be in business. So there's a lot of factors that you just want to keep your relationship with Google in good standing by being active and kind of keeping it so that the user experience is as good as it can get.
Right. Okay. Now for the page load speed, what I see with the plugins that I'm using is that it'll show me the desktop load speed and then also the mobile load speed. Now, obviously we want them both as high as possible, but does Google see those as different?
They do. But obviously, they're not going to be to a sense that the overall website would be changing its ranking too much. You may show better if your website on mobile performs better to mobile devices. So it may give you a better ranking on either device, but not as like a website as a whole that it would really affect. It would just be mobile load speed doing well. Let's show this higher.
Right. So there is a difference. So the search results could be different on a mobile device versus a desktop based on some of those factors like that.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the other thing you mentioned was mobile compatibility. Now, one of the things I heard in this, I guess it was kind of a while ago, but is this true that Google is now prioritizing mobile compatibility over desktop compatibility?
I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case because so much more web traffic is coming from mobile. And that if your website is just not compatible, which with the resources now, it should be easier to make sure that if you design it on desktop, that it's still responsive to devices. But then you also have tablet devices that get mixed in there. So it's always kind of, as a designer, you want to check all the different options to ensure, because you could have a call to action button out of the screen and lose customers just because they didn't see it out of the design.
Yeah. That reminds me of when Leah and I were first learning how to put together funnel pages and opt-ins and things like that. One of our opt-in pages was performing really bad. Like it wasn't doing well at all. And it took us a while to figure this out because this was back in like 2016, and we weren't even really considering mobile compatibility at the time. But when we looked at it, we pulled it up on one of our phones. The opt-in was so small, and it was so hard to like tap right where you're supposed to tap to put in your name. Like it was obvious that was the problem. And that's the thing now is that even with social media and things like that, if you're creating content and you've got a call to action that goes to an opt-in or something on social media, 80-90% of that traffic is going to be mobile traffic. So you need to, whenever you're putting together an opt-in page, whenever you're putting whatever it is, you need to make sure that it looks just as good, if not better, on a mobile device versus a desktop. Because I know as marketers, when we're actually building out websites, when we're building out opt-in pages and funnels and things like that, you're probably building it on a desktop device. And so it's really easy to forget the mobile stuff because you're on desktop. But the thing is that that's just a tiny fraction of your traffic, right? So we need to really make sure that we're prioritizing the mobile view of our website.
Yeah. And using Google Analytics to see if a majority of your users are on mobile, how long are they staying? Is that experience not as good? And then investigate yourself, because sometimes we don't go to our website and pretend we're a customer to see, is this experience as a business owner what I want them to be doing? Is the funnel and the flow actually giving them the experience that I want them to have? Because sometimes we make a website 10 years later, that's when we're like, it's not working anymore. It's because we haven't evaluated how our audience is behaving and actually growing with it. So the data can give you exactly what you should be focusing on. If it's mobile, desktop, a specific page, whatever.
Yeah, I love that. I think a lot of people, and me and Leah included, we often sometimes make assumptions as to what it should be, and we just kind of go with it. But you're right. You got to look at the data, because if that's what's really going to tell you, that's what needs to be fixed and how it needs to be fixed. Now, you mentioned kind of at the beginning of our talk here that AI is changing a lot of how searches work and clicks and things like that. One of the things that I know has been an issue are what they call no-click searches. Can you explain to our audience what that is and how that's affected people's traffic?
Well, I think that it could be that the page is not actually engageable, so it's not having enough helpfulness. Google's goal is to provide their users, their searchers, with useful, helpful information. And so if your website doesn't perform that, Google does use Google Analytics to learn how the performance is once they get to your website. So being able to see that these pages aren't getting clicks, they could be affecting your SEO just by having them. So that's where taking initiative, what else can I add to this page? A video is usually going to be helpful content to actually get some engaged users to go there. But again, I've seen a lot of SEO tags that don't get clicks from Google search because their homepage title tag is home. So the irrelevance of their tags is also not supporting their strategy.
Gotcha. Yeah, I like that tip about adding the video or some other piece of content that keeps people on there, because that, like you said, that is one of the things that that Google looks at is time on page or the bounce rate, right? If people get to your page and then they're leaving within a few seconds, that's not good. But if they get there and Google can see that they're spending a lot of time on your website, that's a very positive indicator, right?
Yes, exactly.
Kelsey, SEO is such a huge subject, and I know that we've gone over a lot of stuff here. You've got a freebie for our audience, right? You something to help them out with this.
I do. I created a Google roadmap, which we've talked about a couple of those steps today. But really, when you are getting started, or if you're just kind of reviewing your business online, what should you do and what should you make sure is in good standing with Google? And so I have a freebie that you can go to my website, 𝐃�RaeEducation.com, and it will pop up for you and you can get that download right away. And there are some videos to go along with each step to give you a little bit more detail about the path.
Awesome. And then if people want to connect with you further, check out your website, see what you do and how you help people, how can they connect with you online?
Well, I am everywhere, all the social media platforms and on YouTube. You can go to either of my websites. KaeRae Marketing is where I offer Google services and I help businesses by managing their Google platforms. And then KaeRae Education is where you want to learn all the secrets that I do for my clients so that you could do it yourself. And I have a bunch of resources, courses, and a community that someone can join if they'd like.
Awesome. Kelsey, thank you so much for being on the podcast. This was incredibly valuable. We really appreciate you being with us today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It was a blast.
You've been listening to the Digital Trailblazer Podcast. For show notes and information about today's guest, head to digitaltrailblazer.com. Now, if you love this episode, if you got some value, make sure you leave us a review and subscribe. And be sure to share this episode with anyone you know who could use help to build their business. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.